Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest has what I think is the absolute funniest show on Netflix right now, maybe on all of television and streaming. It's a sketch comedy show called I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, and already it's created indelible characters that have become cult sensations on the internet. Let's take a look.
Have you been the victim of unfair treatment by a business or a corporation? Has this ever happened to you?
Jerked you off.
Thinking the tuck sound?
Sunday fun day with these pig dicks. Hope nobody gulps us.
Fuck you, Harley Johnson!
Get out front of your eyes!
That road to be his whole life! Crap, Garfield! Your family hates you! I'm not this rude!
Oh, now you have to marry your mother-in-law.
So funny.
Has that ever happened to you?
Everybody, please welcome Tim Robinson. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You did it. You cracked the code of some kind. The code of like everybody's making stuff, everybody's making comedy, everybody's making drama, but you made something that very quickly a lot of people were like, this is perfect and everything I wanted right now.
Oh, thank you.
First things first, we saw him in the trailer, and I think anybody who's seen it already just immediately wants to know who is the man in the car focus group sketch who keeps saying you need to marry your mother-in-law. Where did you find this man? He's so funny.
He's so funny. He's such a good actor. His name's Ruben Rabasa, and he auditioned. We were in pre-production. They sent a tape. The casting sent a tape, and we were blown away. He was so mad in the audition where he was like, "You have to marry your mother-in-law," and we were blown. He was so good. He's so funny.
What did you send the casting director? What were you looking for?
Just an age range was all we were looking. We just said an age range.
Really?
Yeah.
So you didn't have an accent or any sort of ethnicity, anything like that, and
No.
he just...
No, it was just an older man was what we wanted. Yeah.
And you got him, and when he walked, I mean, were you guys breaking on set? Did you realize you had something so perfect when he was doing it? Because I've talked to people and they're quoting that and they
Yeah.
love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, he did exactly what he did in the audition in the room, which we already were in love with. But my friend Zach Cannon, who he's the guy, Paul, the guy he's being mean to the entire time.
Who's the popular one now, Paul?
Yeah, he just wants to do a good job at the focus group. But he would really try and make Zach laugh because he knew Zach was having a hard time keeping it together.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about I Think You Should Leave is that it is a no-frills sketch comedy show after we've had a few years of, a mixed bag of sketch comedy shows that usually featured a host who talked in between them and often quite political at this point as
Right.
well. So what was the pitch process like? When did you come up with the idea, and when was it just going to be like, we're just going to be sketches?
That's a great question. Just when we started, we definitely were like, because a lot of successful sketch shows had those kind of wraparounds where the person is being themselves and letting you know who they are while you watch them be someone crazy. But it felt forced to us. Like, I mean, as I'm sitting out here, I'm not as comfortable being myself. So I think it would have come off as forced and inauthentic. So we were just like, well, let's just let the sketches stand on their own, and then our editors came up with those great transitions that helped the style of the show.
Where's the music from?
It is our editor Stacy Moon found it, and it's just like these old soul tracks that we got. Yeah.
They're so cool. I mean, they really sort of brand the show
Right.
and create a kind of wraparound.
Right.
But it's not your particular sensibility.
It is. That is like she based the color palette on how I dress, and then the music on what I listen to. So it was, yeah.
It's produced by you and the Lonely Island guys.
Right.
How did you bring it to them?
Actually, it was Akiva who talked to Robbie Pratt at Netflix and was like, Netflix wanted to do a sketch show, and Akiva was like, oh, you should do one with Tim. And I had already done the characters, which was a special I did with them years ago, so they were familiar.
They were familiar with your characters.
Yes, yeah.
And what was the writing process like? Did you have sketches already in your bag that you wanted to use when you were a writer at SNL or writing on Detroiters?
Yeah, we had some ideas that were so old, and then a lot of them are brand new now. But like some of those are like 7 years old or something like that.
What's the oldest idea that's in the show?
Now I'm on the spot. I have no
All right.
clue. I have no clue. Yeah.
How big was your writer's room?
There was no writers room. It was just me and Zach, and then John Solomon, who wrote MacGruber and works with Forte a lot. Towards the end of the writing process, he came in and helped us because we were just getting fried trying to put these things together.
Was it always going to be? Is it 6 episodes, right? Or
It's six.
six episodes, and they range between 15 and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Basically, was that always going to be the case, or did you sort of get into the editing room after and see what you had, and then craft the amount of episodes and the length of time?
Yeah, that. Yeah, we had them. It was supposed to be originally like 22 minutes or whatever, but as we started putting them together, we realized they just were so much easier to take in if they were shorter and that shorter runtime. And also, it's easier to watch the next one once you've seen a shorter version.
I've talked to some people, and they see the influence. I mean, Heidecker is in it, but a sort of light influence from Tim and Eric in the sense that you're clearly influenced by like local TV commercials at
Right.
times, and
Same as Detroiters was that also.
yeah, but there's but you're not as anarchic as Adult Swim and
Right.
and Tim and Eric were. Is that influence there for you?
From Tim and Eric.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they're so great, and I think like with Mr. Show and Tim and Eric, they move the bar of sketch comedy so high. First with Mr. Show and then Tim and Eric, they just kept moving the bar of what sketch comedy is. So it's impossible to not look to the greatest, that did it the best before.
They kind of like broke the bar.
Yeah.
And you like that's what I mean. I think you should leave sort of pulls back a little bit and it's sort of like in between the breaking of the bar and Mr. Show, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your favorite sketch? Do you have a favorite sketch?
It changes. I really like the focus group one a lot, and I really like the one with Connor O'Malley, where it's the guy who tricks older men into thinking they're going to become pop stars, which starts as a spinal like surgery commercial, then turns into a guy wanting to be a pop star.
But my favorite part of that commercial is not even the turn; it's the actual new husband lurking in the window, like waiting to get beat up or have to fight this guy who's got a new spine. And is threatening to beat him up, right? Who was that actor?
Just again, the guy we cast. We wanted the surrounding cast members, if it wasn't a guest star like Heidecker or Vanessa or something, to be just really, really good, real grounded actors who can just make you feel like you're really in that moment. So the casting process was long because we looked at tapes, just wanting the best performers.
You didn't want any like comedy people coming in and trying to like ham up the moment. Or
no,
be
I feel
really
like
funny.
maybe that takes you out of it a little bit. So we just looked for people who really looked that part and would deliver a grounded performance.
How did you write for your guest stars, or did you sort of write the sketches and then ask the guest stars to come and be a part of them?
We would just write them and then be like, who do we think would do a good job at this?
Because the Forte one feels very much like a Will Forte's character.
Yeah, and that sketch in particular was John Solomon's idea, who him and Will have known each other forever and are best friends and write together all the time. So we wrote it, and then we were like, oh my God, we should just have Will do this.
One of the things that I'm taking with the show is that you guys don't force sketches to last longer than they're funny. Mm-hmm. There's no sense. I mean, with any kind of, whenever you're on linear television, you have to fill 22 minutes. So sketches eventually have to be a certain time frame.
Yeah.
and your format feels a little more anarchic. Is there a format to each episode to you?
Only there's not like a set template of like what we think should go certain places. It was just a lot of tinkering with putting sketches in different places and seeing what the flow of the episode would be. And it was a lot after we had everything. We had all the sketches where we wanted them, and then we'd put them in episode, and you'd be like, that's way too long now once you're seeing it in there. So it was just watching them over and over. I can't watch an episode because I'm so sick of it because I've seen every single moment. So it was just like feeling out the flow.
Feeling out the flow and making sure that it fit within an episode.
Right.
Are there any sketches that are left on the cutting room table?
There's a few that got cut, and then there is some of the sketches that are like maybe like a minute and a half long. There's probably another like 6 or 7 minutes of that sketch that got cut. So there's a lot on the cutting room floor that are just the back halves of sketches.
Would that potentially be the baby shower sketch where your character is trying to force all of the people to spend $250 on wigs or on fake plastic meatballs?
Yeah.
Because he tried to make a bad mob movie?
Yeah, he's trying to sell his fake plastic meatballs, his Stanzo brand fedoras.
But you sell it with such sadness. Like, he's so sad that he has to do this.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot. There is a recurring theme of like these kind of people who have these dreams of being famous or something like that. Same with the old man who wants to become a pop star, or even Ruben who just wants to be popular. He wants to do the best at a focus group. He just wants to be popular.
I'm doing the best at this.
I'm doing the best at this, yeah.
How much more do you have of Ruben?
He actually he got cut. He was in the spinal cord one. He came in later as another old man who was getting tricked by Connor O'Malley, Robbie Starr. So he came in.
Was that after you had already shot him for the focus group and you were like, we got to bring him in for more?
That's right. You nailed it. Yeah. We shot him with focus group, like we got to add him to something else.
And for the second season, are you going to bring him back?
Absolutely.
If you get picked up for a second season, you will bring him back.
Yes. I saw him on This Is Us after we shot. Then I looked on This Is Us. Like, oh my God, there's Ruben. He was in a scene.
Did he have lines?
I think he did, but I think they got cut out. He didn't on the episode, but I think at one point he probably did.
But going back to what sketch is there a huge back half that ended up getting cut?
The whoopee cushion one has probably another 5 minutes that is chopped off of there, where the guy just keeps defending himself.
It's such an incredible turn that he's defining the prank based off of how he would actually fart versus the sound the whoopee cushion makes.
Right. And in the extended version, he gets to a point where he asks, "How much did the whoopee cushion cost?" And they're like $5.99. He's like, you could have given that money to the ACLU, you bastard." He finds a bunch of different ways to shame the people into putting the whoopee cushion under him.
You come from SNL and you created Detroiters as well with Sam. And has this felt like a somewhat limitless opportunity in regards to this sketch show, whereas like Detroiters is linear television,
Right.
and you guys were also trying to tell a narrative show as well, and then with SNL, there's lots of limitations as to what you can do
Right.
as a writer. Did this feel to you like you could just kind of do whatever you wanted compared to those?
Well, it's definitely like freeing and like doing Detroiters. It's like if you make in a sketch, a person can make a choice, and then the sketch is over. When you can't make as bold of choices in like Detroiters, because then you have to live with that decision for that character. So it is like coming from Detroiters, it was very free. Just anybody can say anything, and you don't have to live with it. The sketch is over. And at SNL, it was just the limitation is the live show. It's like you can only it's being cut live, and there's cards, and then just to shoot things, you just have so much more control.
How long were you at SNL? You were a writer before a performer?
I was a performer first,
and then
and then a writer. So I was there for 4 years.
for 4 years.
Yeah.
And you left to do Detroiters?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And now getting a show like this, I mean, you come from Chicago, right? Originally?
Detroit suburbs
Detroit.
originally, yeah.
But you were doing comedy in Chicago. Is that true?
Yeah, I started doing comedy in Detroit at the Detroit Second City, and then that moved me to Chicago, and then I was in Chicago for 5 years as well.
And then from there you went to SNL.
To SNL, yeah.
And now getting I Think You Should Leave, does it feel like this is sort of everything that you've been working up to at this point? 'Cause you're in full control of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I you know, maybe it does if I sit down and think about it, but I haven't really. We just worked on it, and I was like, I haven't had a minute to like kind of process what it means. Like if I like doing sketch for so long, it just felt, and the characters I got to do that too. Where that I think when I did that, I was like, now I feel good. So that the characters might have been that for me.
What do you mean you feel good? What made you feel good?
Because it was I was at SNL writing, and then I got to do something outside of SNL while I was still there that was completely mine, and with Zach, and got to produce it, and it went on Netflix. So at that point, I felt like satisfied.
Now you're not on Twitter, right?
No.
Which has surprised me simply because I have seen so many people talking about this show on Twitter. I almost felt bad that you weren't on it. Like it's the one time I've ever felt bad for a person not being on Twitter, where I've been like, oh, you should see how much people are talking about this.
That's really nice, yeah.
Have you noticed that the show has picked up in a big way, even though you're not necessarily on the internet?
Yeah, Akiva, who is on Twitter, will send me stuff, and so yeah, I'm aware of it, yeah.
What's that feel like?
It's nice. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel real good. Especially when you just make something that you think that Zach and I and Solomon and stuff, that we think is funny to us. And so that other people think it's funny, it feels really good.
Well, that's the other thing about the show that's so wonderful. It feels like a very unique, specific sensibility.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's trying to make everybody laugh.
No, it's definitely not, yeah. And that's like if somebody says, I don't like it or I don't think it's funny, that's fine to me because it's like, well, I do, so.
Do you find that your sensibility is confrontational?
What do you mean?
Like your comedy sensibility, you like to sort of be somewhat confrontational, push it to the limit? Just a horrible phrase, push it to the limit.
No, I wouldn't say it's confrontational. I think, no, I don't really understand the question. Like, how would it be? Like, the people are confrontational?
Yeah.
That I'm playing?
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. But they are. I thought you meant the comedy in general, that it's confrontational.
No. I think
or
of specifically the
provocative.
Stephen. It's definitely not. I wouldn't say that the show is provocative.
No.
But I would say like the Stephen Yun sketch is being pushed to an extreme that is like totally unexpected.
Right. Yeah, because it's about the theme of a lot of these guys is, or all of the characters is that they get embarrassed a little bit, and they feel like they're going to now not let their embarrassment be the headline, that they're going to fight back and make the other person embarrassed because they felt they were embarrassed by them.
But it's often everybody else sort of gets on their side, becomes the turn, right? Like in the Stephen Yun sketch, suddenly everybody's like, let's find out if this guy's house is covered in shit.
Right. Eventually, I guess a lot of them win over the crowd.
Right, like even selling the Stanzo, hats.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of. I mean, they're a little upset.
I think
that
in
they
that
did
one,
it.
it's more of like, let's just give this guy so he stops talking, please.
We have a tweet, a question from Twitter. Let's pull that up. What is something about your characters that resonates with you?
That resonates with me. Well, what we're talking about right now of just like the, because we all have, we all get embarrassed, and there's so much stuff that the characters do that I do in like smaller forms of like tripping and or like knocking something over, and you just instantly try and be like, oh well, my hand, this table's too small and I hit it, instead of just being like, yeah, I messed up. It's just like you're like, oh, something's wrong with your table. Honestly, dude, that would not have happened. So I think that resonates with me. I have a mechanism that instantly tries to just be like, no, I didn't do it.
Are you at a point where, like, when you go in to shoot a sketch, you're pretty sure, because of what you've written on paper and reading it over, that it's going to work? Or did you have any moments while shooting where you guys got onto the set for a sketch and you're like, oh, I don't know if this is really working?
Yeah, there was tons of those times. You never know until you start to edit them if they work. Because there was and because there's a lot of, I play a lot of jerks, it is, sometimes it gets to the point where I start to feel I start to feel bad because I'm like, this guy is such a jerk, and I have to take after take of being like, shut up, and then I feel like I start to feel like a jerk. So
You're
yeah,
apologizing to the other cast members.
all the time. Sorry, sorry about that. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite guest star that you had on for this season? Someone that you were just so excited that you had, you were kind of shocked that they were there?
Yeah. God. So many. Yeah. I don't know if I could pick I really like. Obviously, Forte. That was a pleasure, and it was so fun to do that scene. Heidecker was fantastic and played that character so perfectly. Yeah. We were talking backstage, but Cecily, I thought, did such a great job, and yeah. So I don't really have one favorite. I
was
said,
really excited to see Fred Willard.
Right, yeah, a legend. He's a legend. Yeah. It was. There were so many. It was so great for people to take time and come to the show.
That was also a character that felt like you had written it for him, even though I imagine you did not. But that just suddenly, that's just his gift. Maybe he can kind of turn anything into making it feel like a Fred Willard character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's with almost everybody who came in. Like there was again, a lot of these things weren't written with anybody in mind, but then they just came in and were so perfect and elevated the sketches more than we could have imagined.
Question from the audience. We have time for 2 questions. Right here. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good.
So you're the best at playing a guy that can't be wrong. And I'm just wondering, as a parent,
Yeah.
when it comes to your kids, how do you help them cope with dealing with times when they're wrong and suffering from embarrassment?
That's a really great question. It's hard because you just have to. The only thing I say is you don't have to feel embarrassed. You don't have to feel embarrassed. It's okay. But again, I struggle with myself, so it's hard to just do it. I just try and teach my kids to be the best people they could be, and try and pass on as much of things I know, which is not a lot.
I also find that from comedians that I've interviewed who play jerks a lot, or like John Glazer plays a jerk all the time, or you guys are also very sensitive to what makes a jerk and are hypersensitive about ever actually being a jerk with anybody else.
Yes, yeah. I think that's from playing them. You're just I don't ever want to be this person. So you see things in yourself and I don't want to be that.
Well, and your ability to play them comes from a sort of hyper observance of people who act like that every now and then.
Right. Yeah.
One more question from the audience.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to know, what is the most important thing you learned from being on SNL that helped you the most in actualizing I think you should leave?
The most important thing I learned on SNL, I think I took away the most. That's a really good question. I feel like SNL kind of gave me confidence. That it was a place where at first I really struggled when I was a cast member and I had a hard time and I was trying to figure everything out. But then when I became a writer, I feel like I really felt comfortable and to every week have that show to challenge yourself and push yourself to try and make a room full of people who have seen every comedy move on the planet laugh was so fun for me, and it gave me confidence because I got to do that every week, and I made some of my best friends, and I really loved it there. But I think it just took away from it confidence, yeah.
What was that period of time where you were a cast member like? What was that struggle that you felt?
I just came from doing stage stuff in Chicago, and then I was instantly thrown on live TV. It's a completely different world. So I just was really trying to do a good job, and I wanted to be good, but it's just a lot to take in, and I think I was just overwhelmed and scared. So
when they moved you over to writer, was that the kind of thing where they were like maybe you would feel better as a writer on the show for a little while, or was that something that you knew as well?
It wasn't worded that nicely.
You showed up and it used to say performer, and then all of a sudden it said writer on the door.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They had taken away all my stage makeup. No, it was. They just basically were like, they're like, we're going to take you out of the cast, but we'd like to know if you'd want to be a writer on the show. And a lot of people were like, just don't do it. Just go and try and perform. But I was like, no, I really like it here, and I like the challenge of being here. So I stayed, and I think that was one of the best decisions I could have made.
Because you were already a writer as well, right? I mean,
Well, the performers always they write as well.
yeah. I mean, would you say though that writing has always been as important to you as performing?
No, not until SNL, because I did improv and stuff. So it wasn't like you really ever sat down at a computer and wrote things. You just kept improvising and improvising until those were sketches. It wasn't until SNL that it was like, no, we're going to sit down and just type something out.
So many of the sketches of I Think You Should Leave, or maybe even all of them, with the exception of maybe like a couple of the commercial parodies, feel like what would be referred to on SNL as like the final sketch of the night.
Right.
Are any of them like original? Were any of them originally conceived there as something like
as
that?
like I don't no 5 to 1s. I don't think but that when I was at SNL, that is basically where Zach and I stuff lived, was in that 5 to 1 spot, which is stressful because when the show is picked and you go live, your sketch might be in the last spot, but that doesn't mean it's going on TV.
Right, they get cut a lot.
As the time stretches on the show. So in that, like you'd get your sketch through all the milestones of the week. You'd get past, but then you get that last one. You're like, you can never rest until it's on TV. Then even when it's on TV, sometimes they run out of time and they're like, dump it, and it gets cut in half, which happened to me.
That happened to you a lot?
Not a lot, but it happened to me one time when I was in the cast. They fully just were like, the screen, I was like mid-sentence and the screen went black and it went to commercial. It just got dumped.
And that has to toughen you up. In a big way, like not just that, but then also the idea that you're passing all these milestones and then you get to the end and it still gets cut. I mean, that has to toughen you up in the sense that you are not precious at all anymore about your material.
You definitely get used to just throwing stuff away that didn't work or did work, but it's just too hard to bring back. So yeah, you don't get very precious about things.
Tim, it's really nice to have you back, and
Thanks
it's
for
really
having me.
nice to have you back for this, which I think is one of the funniest things in so long.
I really
Congratulations.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
Tim
for having me.
Robinson, everybody, let's hear it.
Thank you.